So this video is going to work with Excel Module 2 but Workshop 3. If you're taking this in the classroom, this is an in-class project. If you are taking this in a hybrid or in an online class, this may be assigned outside of class. It just depends. But the important thing is that we're going to just go through Part A of these instructions and we're just going to walk through it. So to begin, the updates that you know are necessary for the Blue Bistro, and this is our fictitious cafe, right? You estimate that you'll need a loan. You explain to the owner that you already have approval from the bank for a set annual interest rate that you have a budget to repay that loan in 1 year. You want to quickly show the owner the percentage and dollar amount of each monthly payment that will apply to interest. So what you're trying to show the owner is how you've budgeted, again, what you're going to pay back, and you're acknowledging that, look, if you take out a $1,000 loan and you wait a month and pay the bank $1,000, you're still going to have a balance left because that bank is going to charge you interest. Well, in the same way, if you were making monthly payments, a portion of that, let's say your monthly payment was $100, a portion of that $100 is going to go to interest, and a portion of that is going to go to the principal of the loan, which is, when we talk about principal, it's the amount that you have borrowed. Okay, if you can show him this, you feel that he will help you pay off the loan early and so save some money. Okay, so you're trying to say, help me pay it off early so I don't have to pay as much interest. As you know, the easiest way to do this is to use the rule of 78. Since you are an Excel guru, you will quickly do the calculation in a worksheet to show the owner. In this way, you can save it and discuss it again at any time. That's a great part about Excel. If you were doing this on an adding machine or a calculator and you're writing this down on a scrap of paper, it would be hard to find that scrap of paper and to walk through your calculations. If you've got it in Excel, you can just save the file, pull up the file, easily. Okay, so plus, if you want, you can make adjustments as necessary. Okay, let's say, as I'm talking to you about the rule of 78, you are saying, I don't know what she's talking about. What is this rule of 78? Well, you might want to review it. It's really outside the scope of this class. And in our class, we're going to focus on putting the formulas into Excel. But there are so many resources for you to go out there and learn a little bit about Rule of 78. It's quick, it's easy. This is actually a little fun thing that you might like. You can go back if you've taken accounting or finance. You probably have some notes on that. There are tons of instructional videos on YouTube. I found one that I think is very helpful and nice, and if you want to type in this web address, it's also in the instructions, and so you can just click on it and get a quick overview of the rule of 78. Like I said, it's not a big complicated thing. I think you'll like it. Then what we're going to do is we're going to complete one of our worksheets that's actually titled or labeled Rule of 78. All right. Warning, the Blue Bistro -3 workbook contains multiple tabs, or in other words, more than one worksheet in our workbook. So, excuse me, from the previous exercises, you know how to expand the workbook, and I say that you want it to be full screen so that you can see everything, make sure you're seeing all your tabs, and you know how to change back and forth between those tabs. So when you go into this workbook, let's verify that we're on the correct tab. Very important. All right. So where is this tab? Where is this workbook? What is she talking about? Well, I have provided for you a starter file. So, how do I find it? Where do I go? Well, the system that we use is called Pause, and you're going to log into that, and that's the website for it there. You're going to click the link for our class, and then you're going to go to Assessment from the menu across the top. You're going to select Dropbox, and then remember we are doing this for Excel Module 2 Workshop 3, our in-class project. This video, it's possible that, again, if you are taking this, because I've called this in class, if you are taking this online or in a hybrid format, this may not be in class. So be a little flexible with me on that. Just to review, I've logged into Pause. Here's our class in this particular situation. Here's the menu across the top, Assessments, and I could go to Dropbox. and I would just scroll down. Here's Excel, Module 2, Workshop 3. I can click it to go enter into this particular Dropbox, or I can just go ahead and click on this file to download it. Different browsers save files different ways. Just pay attention to where you're saving it. Are you saving it to your desktop? Are you saving it into a downloads folder? And when you save it, remember that in our class, you're required to add your last name and first name to the end with no spaces. And so this is, of course, going to be in the assignment instructions, but you may want to do that as soon as you open that file up, or maybe even as part of the download, okay, when the saving process. Okay, you should click the Dropbox name, to open it, then scroll to the bottom of the Dropbox, click the file to save it to your local storage, USB drive, desktop, someplace easy for you to find. Name the Excel file, open the starter file, save it under the new name, and look at this format, Blue Bistro -3 -last first, where last is your last name, first is your first name. The .xlsx is added on automatically by Excel, so no need to type that, otherwise you'll have it on there twice. So don't do that. I'm just reminding you that this is a default extension that Excel puts on the end of the file. So you can read that there. I've just said that. You may never see it again, but it's there. All right, so I've done that. Here is my workbook. I'm using my fictitious student name, Anna Apples, and so I've put a hyphen, I've put her last name, Apples, no spaces, Anna immediately behind it. Now my computer is set up to show the extension of the file. I do this for teaching purposes so that I can show you that Excel has automatically put that .xlsx there. If your computer is not displaying that, it's okay. By default, most computers are not going to show that .xlsx, okay? But that just tells the computer, hey, this is an Excel file. It doesn't change the fact that it is or is not an Excel file. It just is part of a naming convention that lets the computer know, right? Okay. I've got this expanded full screen. I see I've got two tabs down here. I want to make sure the highlighted tab is Rule of 78, and here I am. I see, and it's our practice to put our name up here at the top of this spreadsheet. I'm going to go ahead and do that now, and done. All right, now I do see some instructions here, but let me read on. Okay, so on the Worksheet tab, type your name in cell B1. And recall that capitalization matters. You know that. I don't need to stress on that. In cell B9, type the amount of the loan. Okay. How much is the amount of the loan in cell B9? You apply for a loan of $3,000. Now, in Excel, I'm going to type 3,000, no commas, no dollar signs, just type 3,000. My instructions don't tell me to do this, but as a reminder of things we've studied in previous chapters, if I wanted this to look a little better, I could come up here, click on the dollar sign. That's a very quick way to put some formatting on it. That's the accounting format where the dollar sign is far to the left, and I've got two places after the decimal. In the interest, I happened to look ahead at the next instruction, which told me in cell B10, which you see is where I'm at now, to type the annual interest rate, and don't forget the percent sign. So it says the annual interest rate is 6%. Now, the thing to remember about the percent sign, oh, and I see it was already formatted in that style, is the percent is a formatting, but it is also a mathematical operator. So when I type the number 6 in there and then I type percent, I'm actually converting that number. It's no longer the number 6. In reality, it's 0.06. You agree with me, correct? In fact, so much so, look up here at the truth indicator, this formula bar. Most of our symbols don't appear up here. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to hit enter. If I go back and I click on cell B9, I don't see a dollar sign up there. I don't see a comma. But when I click on cell B10, that's the same as if I said multiply, by what I'd have to divide by 100, right? That's the same as if I said that, multiply by 1 over 100 or divide by 100, because that's up here. That's actually showing. It's not a formatting symbol. It's a mathematical operator. All right. Time, and it emphasizes in years I'm supposed to enter. And I'm on step 5 of the instructions that say in cell B11, type the duration of the loan in years. And I'm going to type 1. Interest paid in 1 year. All right, in my next instruction it says in cell B12, you will type the formula, and that's emphasized to you, to estimate the interest owed. Oh goodness, I got a typo there. I'm sorry. To estimate the interest owed, which is previous. Oh goodness, I'm so sorry. Pause. Okay, sorry about that. My television kind of took off there. Okay, let me start again. Step number 6. In cell B12, you will type the formula to estimate the interest owed, which as previously noted is the amount of the loan times the interest rate. All right, so it's stressed to us that we are not to type a numeric value here. Don't enter the answer, enter the formula. Well, all formulas start with an equal sign, right? And it's telling us there that we need to enter the amount of the loan times the interest rate. Well, folks, don't ever type 3,000. Don't type that number, because if you do, if you decide to change the amount of the loan later on, you'll have to find every place that you typed that number and you'll have to update it. Instead, let Excel figure out what is in, what the amount of the loan is by just putting the cell number. Right? So B9, I just clicked on it because you know what the cool thing is? The minute I typed that equal sign, Excel started listening and it said, if you click on a cell, I'll put that into the formula. So that's what I did. There's the amount of the loan times, which we know is that star symbol. If you have a numeric keypad, you'll find it on the side. If not, shift and number 8, right? Times the interest rate. And again, Excel is listening. Where is the interest rate? Now, if I type 6%, if it changes later on, I'm going to have to remember to find every place that I've typed it into a formula. Instead, it'll be much more automated if I let Excel just, keep up with whatever value is in cell B10. Enter, because I'm done with the formula. Press the Enter key on my keyboard. So there we have it. $180 is the interest paid in 1 year's time, right? Okay. I am going through the instructions here. I want to emphasize that. And I do try to give you some cautionary notes. Notice that we just typed in the formula. I do, even though I go through these videos, I do have students who will just simply type in 180 into this cell. And excuse me, you don't ever want to do that because you're not learning Excel. You're just typing, right? You don't want to just get into typing. Also, as you can imagine, I check. And so we've already learned if I click in cell B12, I can look at what I call the truth detector, which is the formula bar up here. And it shows me what's really in the cell. So here's what I mean. What if I decided to change the amount of the loan and I said, you know what, I've scraped up a little cash. I don't need quite as much money to borrow, so I'm going to change that. Instead of 3,000, I'm just going to borrow 2,500. Do you see how this changed in cell B12? And that's because we put in a formula and we used cell names. If we had typed in 3,000 in this formula rather than B9, then now I would have to go update my formula. But I don't have to because Excel goes and looks at it for me. I'm going to do undo. That's Control Z. Cool little keyboard shortcut, Control Z. Well, what if I convince the bank? I say, look, I've been with your bank for a really long time. I'm a really good customer. Can you shave off, just a 0.5%? And so maybe I enter 5.5 as the percentage. Again, see how it changed that? And if I had typed 6% into this formula, then I would have had to go change it. Also, oops, it looks like 6%, but look at my formula bar. I didn't even realize that. I'm sorry. 5.5 is what's really there. It's because my formula is rounding a little bit. So if I was to display more decimal places, I would see that that really is 5.5. Okay, so I'm going to put that back to 6, and of course it's showing 2 decimal places, so $180. But again, never ever type $180 like that, because if you did and then I change this to 2,500, well, why would that change? There's no formula there. If I change that to 5.5, right, I would have to go recalculate that and type it in again, and I'd have to, remember that I needed to do that. So let Excel, make it easy on yourself, folks. Let Excel do that. And I just did Control-Z several times, which is my undo command, so you can see, so you can see there is a formula there, and it's going to change if any of those amounts change. All right, now let's come down to the bottom part of the spreadsheet that we're going to fill out. And instruction number 7 says enter the numbers 1, 2, 3 in cells A17, here's A17, A18, and A19 respectively. So I'm going to click in cell A17, enter 1, just like that. 1, 2, 3 in those 3 cells. Then it says use the autofill handle that you studied in your textbook and in the simulators to populate the cells below with the numbers 4, 5, 6 all the way up to 12 to represent the years. So that's what I'm trying to do here, right? I want this to count up to 12 months. Now here's the important thing, folks. I'm going to start out and I'm going to select all 3 of those cells. When I say select, I need my mouse to be with this puffy white plus sign. So I'm going to go right to the middle of the cell, press and drag. Do you see that? That's how I select. Press and drag and then let up. Now at this point, oftentimes students start to get confused. When my mouse is in the middle, see the puffy white plus sign? That is selecting. If I move my mouse over the edge, I will move, not select, but move that data. If I put my mouse, can you see this green square here? If you can see that green square, when I get my mouse directly over it, this is the fill handle. I'm about to click and drag. I'm going to press my mouse button and drag down. But if you have a shaky hand and you go up ever so slightly, it's the move symbol, same as I showed you up here, right? So you got to be really careful. If I go into the box a little bit, that's my selection mouse, right? Puffy white plus sign selection mouse. If I go the other way, I'm going to be selecting something totally different. So let's do that again. Select, fill handle, press, drag. See it counting? And I'm down to 12. Release my mouse, and that's filled in. These are not formulas. I'm clicking, but remember, Excel gurus are not looking at where they're clicking. They're looking at the formula bar, because what I can see is that there's no formula. These are just numbers that Excel entered in for me. Now, over here I see something kind of weird. It says Rule of 78, interest paid this month. And what I'm trying to show you is how it's calculated. I don't actually want to do the calculation. I just want to show you how it's calculated. So what if, I'm going to just go to a blank spot on my workbook. What if I typed 12, and I'm trying to say what I'm ultimately going to do is divide by 78, and I hit my enter key. What just happened? Well, arrow back up. Excel said, oh, were you trying to type a date? Something in December of the year 1978? Isn't that kind of what that looks like? See, it tried to help me. It knew it wasn't a formula because all formulas start with an equal sign. But it also said that's a little strange looking. And so I'm going to go ahead and convert that to a date because I think that's what, that's what the person is doing. All right. So if you turn the page on your instructions, I've asked you to a little riddle, and you see we just completed these parts of the instructions. It says complete this riddle as part of your assignment points. Excel will not allow you to type a formula with invalid syntax. Syntax is like every formula starts with an equal sign. If you forget the equal sign, that's part of the necessary structure, the syntax, and so it says that's a problem. So for example, if you type 12/78 in a cell, then Excel will think you are trying to type a formula and it will report an error, or in our case it said, I'm going to say that's a date. Of course, if you type equals 12/78 in the cell, then Excel will solve it and it will display the result. Still, you simply want to display the value 12/78 in the cell as text. How can you do this? Well, one way to do this is demonstrated already for you in this cell range. And remember, we read this as B17 through B28. It is a simple symbol that is revealed on the formula bar, that truth bar, but will not display on the spreadsheet when it's printed, for example. Type the name of the symbol in cell B15. I will look for your answer there. So, when I look at the formula bar. Look at that strange symbol at the beginning. That is simply an apostrophe. And what that does is it tells Excel, just accept this the way that it is. You know when this can be really handy? Let's say that you have a student ID number. And your student ID number, in fact all of our student ID numbers begin with the number 0. So maybe it's actually 000123789. Obviously totally making that up. Now this is a number. Excel will recognize it as a number. And what do we know about the leading zeros in a number? Oops, you know what it did? It remembered the date formatting. Let me go to another cell. 000123789. There we go. Leading zeros are completely irrelevant on a number. You could say, I'm going to count to 10. 01, 02, 03. Well, that would be silly, right? Nobody puts leading zeros at the start of a number. Excel knows that, so it got rid of them. And not just on the display, it really got rid of them. We can see that from the truth bar up here, the formula bar. But this is not a number. I'm not going to do math with this. We don't ever multiply two student IDs together or divide one student ID by 2 or by another student ID, right? It's just a text. Really, it's a label. So labels are just text. How do I make it stick? Well, what did we learn over here? If we want something to display exactly the way we typed it in, treat it as a label, treat it as text, we just start with an apostrophe. That's the symbol right next to the enter key on your keyboard. It's below the double quotes. So for example, I'm going to type in the cell below. I start with my apostrophe 000123789. You can type whatever numbers you want. And it's keeping those leading zeros. Now, I see I have a little green triangle there, very much like I have green triangle here. Let's explore that. When I click on the cell, it gives me a cautionary note. The number in this cell is formatted as text or preceded by an apostrophe. In other words, I can't treat it as a number. That's okay. That's what we want. I could, if I chose to, convert this to a number. I could get help on this error. I could ignore it, edit. You see your options here. Well, I'm going to ignore it. Now, that tends to be a temporary ignore. If you close and come back in, it'll just put the green triangle there again with that warning message. You know, so it's up to you if you want to turn it off or not. If you want to do a group of cells and get rid of that error message, you can select them all, because they all have the error message. If some did and some didn't, doesn't always work reliably. So I'm going to put my mouse over the warning, ignore error. That just gets rid of that distracting symbol. Okay? It's just trying to warn us. It's just Excel looking at the values and saying I'm a little concerned. So I think we know the answer to the riddle now. How do we do it? We saw in cell B17 through B28 that we just put that little apostrophe, type the name of the symbol. You know, I want you to do that in cell B15. I will look for the answer there. So in cell B15, apostrophe. That's the answer, right? I'm just kind of asking you to look at some things. All right, let's go a little further. In cell C17, you will actually calculate the percentage of interest paid in the first month. The calculation is shown to the side in cell B17. So in cell C17, what I'm saying is you're actually going to enter the formula, continue entering the formula for each subsequent cell, C18 through C28, okay? And this is going to make more sense really when we look. Nice to have your printed copy of the instructions next to this exercise. All right, here's what I'm saying. Rule of 78, interest paid in this month. Rule of 78, interest paid in this month. I'm demonstrating the formula to you here. Over here, we're going to actually do it. It's equal 12 divided by 78, because all formulas start with an equal sign. I had previously formatted this as a percentage. Now remember, percentage is one of those things that is a formatting, but it is also a mathematical operator. So if I was to convert this, right, I could change this to like a dollar amount, or that doesn't really make sense. This is the percentage. You can add a couple decimal places if you want, right? All right, next cell down, how much interest will I be paying in the second month? Well, I would be paying 11/78 of interest. Let's convert that to a percentage, equal 11 divided by 78. I'm just going to keep on going. Oops. Equal 10 divided. This is how much interest I would pay in the associated month. And see how it's going down? And I'm going to pay more of my money is going to principal as I progress deeper and deeper into into the loan. Sometimes it's more difficult than you may think to talk and type and look at different things at the same time. All right, bear with me here. We're all human. We're going to get through it. Okay, so this is kind of a neat function of the rule of 78, which is it makes it very easy, only for 1-year loans, okay, only for 1-year loans. It makes it very easy to see how much of your money is going towards interest in the very first month that you make a payment as opposed to the very last month that you make a payment. Okay, here we go. Keep on moving forward. Have you saved your work? I hope so. What if I lost all power? That would be terrible. Let's save. I've already named it the way I want it, so I just click that little floppy disk button. I see people go through this whole step of file, save as, and then they replace the file, and you end up with a bunch of files with a little number 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. Don't do all that. Just you're saving the exact same work, right? So just click that little save button. And then learn the keyboard shortcuts. Control S is going to keep your hands on the keyboard and allow you to keep working so that you don't have to lift one of your hands off the keyboard, go over to the mouse, or squish your hand up to use that little mouse pad at the end of your laptop. Just Control S and be done with it. Save it, right? All right. In cell D17, we're on cell D17 now, step number 11, enter the amount of the monthly payment that you will make. Okay, monthly payment. What is my monthly payment going to be? Well, it says I budgeted for a monthly payment of $265. Huh, okay. That's my monthly payment. That's what I'm trying to make right there. And I previously formatted that as a accounting, we looked at that earlier, the accounting dollar amount, right? Okay, $265, I entered that. Gosh, this is easy. Enter the amount, okay. Name the cell. Name cell D17. Here's the thing, folks. I like to ask students, oops, where'd I go? I like to ask students, How many of you can recite to me your student ID right now off the top of your head? Your 10 best friends, 5 best friends, phone numbers. Even sometimes your best friend's phone number, you may not even know. We have a hard time remembering numbers. It's just part of our humanness, okay? We tend to remember labels. Most people tend to remember labels much more readily. So if I know this is the amount of the monthly payment, I want to be careful about retyping that in each cell. Certainly I could, don't do this, I could certainly type this. But what happens then if I decide to change the amount of my monthly payment? Then I would have to retype it for everything, and I don't want to have to do that. I want Excel to figure that out. Okay? So I could hit my equal sign and just tell it to display the amount from D17. That is a formula. Believe it or not, that's a formula. Just equals D17. But I got to remember now, what is D17? I can't remember. Oh yeah, it's that cell, it's that monthly payment. And I don't want to have to remember those numbers. Well, D17 was monthly payment, and A41 was something else, and Z132, well, that was some interest rate that I got from a different. I don't want to have to remember all that. So I want to give this cell a very friendly name, and I'll tell you how to do that. All you got to do is go up to this name box, and you may recall we talked about this. And this is a carryover skill, a carryover from Word. When you see your mouse change shapes, gosh, our mouse is changing shapes. Puffy white plus sign, 4-sided arrow, right thin black plus sign, and these all mean different things. So when I see it change shape into an I-beam, see how it looks like a construction I-beam? It means click to type. That's what that means, click to type. All right. Well, what do I want to type? I want to type the name of that cell. Now, folks, I'm going to tell you one more thing. Some of you have a real phobia about clicking away someplace, so you'll constantly do something like that. Well, guess what? I'm about to name the wrong cell. Don't do that. Once you select it, keep that selected. Don't touch anything else. Come right up here and click to type. And I want to name this cell something meaningful. And I've given you instructions to name it MO for monthly and PAY for pay. Now notice my use of capitalization. Pay is a brand new word. So if I capitalize the first letter in it, it makes it very easy to see, right? M for month, so monthly pay. Now, as soon as I hit enter, that cell will be named Mo Pay. Here's a couple notes. You don't want to name the cell A1 because we already have an A1, right? There are other rules. How do I know? I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. How do I know what I can and cannot name a cell? Well, first of all, Excel will give you error messages, but this is where using your book is important. So oftentimes students come in to class, they get frustrated, they start following these assignment instructions, and they are very frustrated. How was I supposed to know that? Nobody ever told me. I can't do all that. That's new to me. Well, I didn't know. But see, folks, if you're going through your book, then you've got little videos that are embedded in the ebook that are a minute, 2 minutes, that show you how to do these things, and they will lower your frustration because it'll be familiar. If I was telling you, if you came to me and said, I want to learn to be an Excel guru, and I said to you, I'm going to show you in 15 minutes and you'll know everything about Excel, would you believe me? I don't think so. Oh, you might say, oh, well, I'll sue you and I'm going to try to get right. But you wouldn't believe me, not from the start, because you know it's not possible for me to show you in 15 minutes and make you an expert. Where you learn the skills, where you become proficient with the skills, is somebody can show you. It can be a video in your book. It can be a step-by-step explanation in your book. It can be an in-class exercise. but you have to practice. So if you came to me and said, I'm going to participate in a triathlon, I'm going to bike and I'm going to swim and I'm going to run. And I said, great, when is it? And you say, it's tomorrow. I said, well, you must have been training a lot. You say, no, I don't ever run, I don't ever swim, and I don't ever bike. But tomorrow I'm going to win the race. We would all have a good laugh, right? Because if you're not training, you're not going to show up on that day and be proficient. It takes practice. So if you're not practicing, I can understand the frustration. I sure can. In fact, oftentimes I prepare videos like this for students and they don't even take the time to walk through it, but they will express their frustration on not understanding how to do the steps. So I'm showing you, hang in here, and you just got to do your part. So work with me a little bit, all right? Okay, what have I done? I have named cell D17 MoPay. I can see that because the cell has that. If I click away someplace, you know, it says this is the cell, F22. But if I want to go back to cell D17, you know, this name box is kind of cool. I can type D17 in there, take me right back to it. But I could also find out that that cell is named MoPay by using that name box. Here's what I mean. I'm going to click, I'm going to do this. I'm going to click up here in this name box, and I'm going to type cell AZ512. That's a cell name. And Excel took me to that cell. And if I wanted to go to a different cell, let's see, how about ZA1000? Took me to that cell. See, ZA1000. But if I click in this drop down box, any cell that I have named will appear there, and I can click on it and it'll take me directly to that cell. So the name box does two things. It tells us what cell we have selected. I've just clicked N13, there's N13. It also, by typing in it or by using this drop-down box, will navigate. It will take us to the cell that we put in there. And, of course, we just saw that it allows us to change the name or to give the cell an extra name. The cell is still named D17. It's just also known as MoPay. All right, now what do I want to do? Well, here's what I do not want to do. I do not want to copy this down. I want Excel to automatically make changes if I should change the value in cell D17. I don't want to have to do any additional work. I don't want to have to remember to copy stuff, nothing like that. That's going to cause me heartache later on. So down in cell D18, I'm going to type equal MoPay. And I'm going to type pay, but look at what Excel is doing. It is suggesting that there are functions, but you can see the picture is a little different for MoPay. It looks like a name card. That is my cell. I could just pick that. I had to double click it. Hit enter. So I could type it or I can pick it out like that. Now I'm going to copy that. You saw what I did there, right? Let me go back. Select your cell. Make sure it's selected. Get your mouse over the fill handle. You can double click, that's nice, or you can press and drag. So what's in all these cells? Well, I can click. This is what Excel gurus do, and it drives you crazy. They're not looking at where they're clicking. They're looking up here because they want to know what's actually in the cell. Another thing that we learned is that if I hold my control key down and I I hold my control key down and I press, okay, how to describe this? It is like an apostrophe, but it's the opposite facing apostrophe. If you look at your keyboard and across the top it says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0, hyphen, equal sign, okay? But go back to where it says 1, underneath your escape key. There is like a tilde symbol, but you don't want to shift, just control and that little tick mark. Then it will change the view so that I can see my formulas. And if I do that exact same combination again, control tick mark, it will turn to the display. Formulas, the display view. So what I see is that my formulas are going to automatically update now. If I were to change my monthly payment, now it's maybe I can pay $350 a month, yay! I don't have to copy, I don't have to remember to go figure out, oh, where was this again? It just did it. I want to undo that. Control Z, and I'm back. All right. So you're getting some extra information as we go through here. Again, this is kind of a teaching assignment. All right, so I'm going to continue on with my instructions. We did the monthly pay. Copy the formula from cell D18 to the cell range, D19 through D28. We did that. Now we're going to click in cell B18. And as you recall, this is the cell where you made a rough calculation of the interest paid in 1 year. We're going to call this, and look at my capitalization here, capital E, ST, capital I, NT, capital paid. Estimated interest paid. Okay, see how capitalization helps me there? Estimated interest paid. What cell? B18. Okay, so where did I go? B18. You know what? I don't want B18. Oh, that's an error in my instructions. I need to make that C18. Oh, error in the instructions. Need to notate that. Okay, so our estimated interest paid is actually cell C18. So up here in cell C18, I'm going to name this cell. I'm going to click. We called it Est Interest Paid. Okay, I think I have an error here. Made a rough calculation of the interest paid in 1 year. Oh, I mean B12. Goodness, what am I doing? Okay, you know what? Undo. You know, folks, I'm doing this very deliberately in real time because it takes a little longer, but I want you to be comfortable with the mistakes. Now, I just did Control Z, I did undo. In your book, there's a great little video on using the name box how to edit your formulas. And what I mean by that is under formulas, here's Name Manager. And you can go into Name Manager and correct mistakes or see things that are already there. Okay? If this is blowing your mind, got to go back to that textbook. Less than a 2-minute video on how to do that. All right, this is what that should be. Goodness, my instructions. Okay, so cell, it should be B12. And we're going to name this cell Estimated Interest Paid. All right. That was our estimated interest paid. Okay, so let's go back to our instructions. Like I said, got a little typo there. All right. So now focus on the table and the empty column titled Rule of 78, Amount of Interest Paid in Each Month. Well, the Rule of 78 already tells you that your first monthly payment includes 15.38%. What? 15.38%. Sure enough. How about that? Okay. Come back over here. Did you notice that this formula automatically changed as you copied it to each? Oh, did we do the formula? Oh, I skipped a step. Nope. Okay, here we are. 1538 of your total interest. So in cell E17, you simply have to multiply this percentage, right, the 15.38, by the total interest. Of course, you're required to do this with a formula. You're also required to use cell names. Specifically, your formula will be C17 times the interest, the estimated interest paid. All right, this is what we're saying. Over here, we're going to have equal. We're going to pick our C17 and we're going to multiply by estimated interest. All I typed was EST and it got it. Double click it, or I could type it, it doesn't matter. Okay, now we have noticed that when we copy formulas, Excel is very smart, and it will understand to take C17 and go down now to C18 and use this 14.10%. When we copy it down again, it'll use the C19 value. But what if it did that also to estimated interest paid? Then it would go from being cell B12 to B13 to B14 to B15. Well, that is not right. That would cause a lot of errors. But this is an absolute reference. In other words, it's the same as if I did the $B, $12 to lock it onto that cell. It is an absolute name of the cell. So that means cell C17 is going to change as I copy the rows, and estimated interest paid is not. Look at how smart that is. I just double-clicked that fill handle. Do that again. Select your cell. Put your mouse over the fill handle. See that little square? That little special green square? Double-click, or you can press and drag. Now, this is what Excel people do, because they're not looking at what they're clicking on. They're looking up here. Here's another thing Excel people do. Control tick mark to the left of the number 1 on your keyboard. Control tick mark. Control tick mark. What I'm doing is I'm spot checking my formula. Click. Now when you're in this mode, be careful, because if you start to modify things, you know, it'd be very easy to mess up a formula. So just kind of make sure, okay, it's getting the amount from here, and where's there's the other amount, okay. Looks good. Am I progressing sequentially on my rows? C17, 18, 19, 20. Okay. Let me go back to my regular view then. Right? Looks good. Okay. So far, so good. We copied the formula. We did exactly this, and we're talking about relative references. So I just explained that, and then there we're going through absolute references. This is about an absolute reference. Make sure you understand that we're using an absolute reference. Have we saved our work? Step 18, better do it. Look at our spreadsheet. It's neat, it's well organized, and all the information is very clear. Also, it is easy to update. The reason that it's easy to update is because you typed the key information in cells on your spreadsheet. You didn't type all the dollar amounts and payment amounts and other values into the formula. No, you were smart and you used cell names where the cells contain the information. So you'll make the following updates because you wonder, what if I borrowed more money? This what if analysis, this is what management does all the time. What if I did this? What if I got a better interest rate? What if I borrowed less money? What if I borrowed more money? What if I got a worse interest rate, right? Change the amount owed in cell B9 to 5,000. Here we go. 5,000. Look at my interest paid each month. Goes up, right? Goes up. And here's my monthly payments, right? Okay. What else should I go over here? Observe how this changes the interest paid throughout your spreadsheet. If you had used a calculator, you would be retyping all your calculations right now. Because you used Excel and because you used cell names. You didn't type those values and retype those values. You typed the values one time and then you used cell names to refer to the value. Those calculations were all made immediately and with little effort. Use the undo feature. Either click the undo button or here's that keyboard command, Control Z on our keyboard, to return the amount owed to 3,000. Again, notice that the values in your spreadsheet automatically update. Control Z. There we go. Okay. I'll tell you something kind of cool. If you want to watch these values change, Control Z, put this value back at 3,000. Control Y is redo. So you have undo and redo, right? So Control Y puts that back at 5,000. And what this does, the reason I'm showing you this, is sometimes it allows you to maintain a focus on what's changing. Control Z, oops, sorry. Control, did I mess it up? Control Z, Control Y, Control Z. Oh, I'm trying to look at too many things. Okay, you get the idea. Control Z, Control Y, and you can start to see what's going on here, what's changing, right? How much money, how much interest is going into that each and every month, okay? Now, this is what I wanted to do for this particular worksheet. This, again, just for our purposes, a demonstration of a lot of concepts. You learned you learned how to really set things up. You got a reminder on how to fill in the months. You learned this new thing about putting an apostrophe to preserve something as a label. We are really looking at and investigating that a percent symbol is a formatting, but it is also a mathematical calculator, right? As opposed to a dollar sign, which is just a formatting. It doesn't change the value, just displays the symbol. We learned that up here when we type interest in here as well. Okay, we learned how to name cells. We called this one MoPay, and we learned how to use that named cell in a formula. We also learned one of the most simple formulas, which is just equal and a cell name. Sometimes you have a value down low on your spreadsheet. It can be way down, and you want to be able to open the spreadsheet and quickly see that value. All you got to do, I'll just use this for example, cell D29. All you got to do is say equal D29, and then when you come in, there's going to be the value right here. Don't retype the value, because if it changes here, you say, oh, I think I can pay $350 a month. So cell D29 changed to 4,200. Well, look, it changed up here too. This is the simplest formula in the world, and it is most often unused and forgotten and causes people a lot of stress. They'll say, how do I make that display on another place without retyping it? Right? Equal the cell name. All right, Control Z, right, to get rid of some of that. All right, what else did we learn? We named another cell. We learned that that is definitely an absolute reference, because as we copied this formula to each and every cell, it stayed, focused on this amount. And we're just driving home this control apostrophe to be able to view our formulas or view the results of those formulas. You want to know something cool here too? Kind of a final note before we stop this spreadsheet, or stop this video on this spreadsheet. Oftentimes, bookkeepers, accountants, financial analysts are not so concerned about the data, because the data in the spreadsheet comes from, let's say, a mainframe system, a Oracle database, a SQL Server database, some other spreadsheet. Not always, okay, but often. What they get upset about is if they ever lose the formula, because they would have to go through the mental process of thinking through all those formulas again, and it would take hours and days and weeks sometimes, and then the mistakes, you would spend your life troubleshooting, trying to get everything back. If you display the formulas, control tick mark, rather than the result, you can print this. You can absolutely print this, and that way you would have a paper copy where you're preserving the actual formulas. So if you're not following me when I say control tick mark, let me just say this. On the left side of your keyboard, find the control key. Immediately above that is shift. Immediately above that is caps lock. Immediately above that is tab. Immediately above that is the tick mark. Got it? Okay. If you know what a tilde is, it is the same symbol. It shares, the tilde shares the key with that tick mark. Maybe I should get a picture of that. I'll do that eventually. All right. So this spreadsheet is complete. We talked about how to make numbers labels. Let's delete that. If you have that on your spreadsheet, let's delete that. I also like, just as a practice, to come up here and situate my mouse at A1 so that my spreadsheet is nicely displayed. Make sure you save that work, and I will see you for part B of this assignment.